Hey everybody! Hey everybody! Welcome to the channel. I've got 4 people viewing already. So Greeny, tell us about your trip to Vietnam. I've been dying to hear about it. I saw the pictures. You ain't hearing us. We ain't hearing you either.
You, I think, was muted.
Got you now.
Okay. So I went there. So I'm looking at my picture here. I guess I better adjust the
Yeah, you look okay.
looks a little staticky. Yeah, I went. It was I loved it. Vietnam was great.
The food's good too, isn't it?
It was pretty good food. It was enjoyable. We actually we went to some pizza place. I know you recommended one, but that was way on the
Yeah.
other side of the river. And actually, the pizza place we went to is called Limoncello, and
Mm-hmm.
the owner there is he's from Italy, and it was good pizza. You know,
Hmm.
we went to another Italian place before that, a few blocks from there, and it was 2:30 in the afternoon on a weekday, and they asked, "Do you have a reservation?" We're like, "No, no other place was crowded. This place was packed." And they're
Really?
like, "Oh, well, it's probably about a 45-minute wait. You need a reservation." So it was kind of crazy. But
Damn.
yeah, I had some fun. You know what's weird is we, looked around and a lot of pho places and went and got the, traditional pho, and it wasn't. It was like not even as good as the pho that I've had in Bangkok and America.
Hmm.
Different places. It was like it's almost like these places that are in different countries. Like they really take their time to want to compete. Like want to really do it right. You know what I mean? Cook that bone broth for 20 hours, things like that. And in I mean, this place just the flavor of the broth just wasn't there. I mean, it just didn't
Hmm.
kill it like I wanted to. And I had two different ones there, and it was both like that. I'm like, and I was like, this is not as good as Thai noodle soup, you know, Thai meatballs, Thai noodle soup, all the Thai soups. And I'm like, well, I can't argue with you. It doesn't have the, you got to come to Fall Lucky in Detroit and try it
Yeah,
there. It's kind of
that's
crazy, but
wild.
yeah, we did go to the banh mi restaurant, like you saw the one that Anthony Bourdain had went to
Yeah.
in Hoi An, and that was an excellent sandwich.
Yeah,
It was
that is a
really good.
great place to
Yeah,
eat. It.
yeah, it was really cool. The atmosphere, everything was cool.
Yeah. I think when I was there, we went just about every day. That's usually where I had my lunch, and just
Mm.
fantastic food, fantastic. I really love that city. I
Hoi
just
An or the
yeah,
name
yeah. No,
Hoi An?
well,
Hoi An?
I like both of them, but Hoi An is my favorite. And
Oh, okay, yeah.
walking around with a camera there, it that is street photography heaven.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I actually, you can see, like, I'm gonna play around with my camera while I'm talking to you guys before the mad rush of people come. But let me just see something. Hold on one second. All right. I tried to change some settings on this when I was in Hoi An because it was dark, and I don't usually
mhm.
like the pictures came out great, but just this camera I have, this Sony, it doesn't have. All right, let me turn down this exposure. No, that's not good.
Well, that's perfect
Keep
skin tone
talking.
right there.
Yeah, that's all right. So that's that one. Keep talking. Keep asking me. I can talk.
Okay, you're
Oh,
multitasker.
you know more
Actually,
about
I
this than
lived
me.
I lived in Ho Chi Minh City in Saigon for about a year prior to moving to Bangkok. I had an apartment in both cities, but my main place was Ho Chi Minh City, and I liked it a lot, and primarily because of, well, there's a lot of reasons, but the food was amongst the reasons I liked it there. I find Vietnamese food, from my way of tasting things, is better than Thai food. Thai food for me has gotten a little boring. It's the same thing over and over again. It's not that diverse. They do have some really good dishes here, and I don't want to put it down. I do like Thai food, but the in Vietnam and in Ho Chi Minh City especially, they they booted the French out way back in the early '60s, I think it was, but they kept a
Mm,
lot of the French stuff, French bread. pastries, French cooking, is and architecture and a bunch of other stuff. But the French, the vestige of the French rule back, in I don't know, 40s, 50s, whatever the fuck it was. They left a legacy of good cooks there, and it's particularly true in Ho Chi Minh City. And I thought the food was fabulous.
We did have some good food. I enjoyed it. Vi's so set on Thai food. She does eat a lot of Western. If it's not going to be Thai food, it's going to either be pizza, burgers, or something real Western. But she loves Japanese too, but probably any other national. Well, I don't know. She likes Indian food. I don't know, but she wasn't that as enthralled as I was. I mean, we went to this other nice restaurant, not a restaurant, but like a trendy, very high rated place on like Google, and had like this chicken dish and then these braised pork. Oh, I mean, the flavor was just amazing.
So a good dish of theirs, yeah.
So, anyways,
in Saigon, we're right around the corner from where we stayed in District 1. You come out of the hotel room and you walk around the corner, and there's all these people grilling snails on the side of the sidewalk. They get these little, kind of like they used to do in Bangkok, with street food. They'd be grilling snails, and that was some of the best food that I ever ate. Really, really enjoyed it. But there was another place that was downstairs from us, and they made some kind of fish soup, and it was the mackerel that I hate. But in this soup, oh God, it was so good. And you walk down in the morning, they'd bring you one of those little cups of coffee, with that steel tin on top, and bring you out a bowl of that soup, and then a couple of buckets about that big. And, oh man, it was just great. I loved it. Now Lek didn't like Saigon because of the traffic, but I enjoyed my time there. I really had a great time. Now but Da Nang, there's not a lot of as much traffic in Da Nang as there is in Saigon.
No,
when you go,
it wasn't crazy.
Yeah, when you go to Saigon, you'll see the difference. Good evening. What I see photography. Hey, how you doing? I just got back from Ho Chi Minh City. The food was real good. Oh no. Yeah. Oh, hey Dana. How you doing?
Must have been really
fun. I thought she had food poisoning, but it turns out it was something else. She got the big C. She's got the C right now. She's in bed.
Oh, really?
Cold compress on her head. Yeah. So it's funny what Charlie said about traveling. He got it, and his friends got it, and everybody like travel. And I'm pretty positive. I thought that it was a good chance that that's what I had in the Philippines, even though my test came back negative. But now that Phi has it and I don't have it, I'm like, well, I must have just had it. I had it. I mean, there's no way she could have it and I don't have it unless I just had it like a month ago. You know what I mean? Where I still have some antibodies or something. So,
speaking of which, I want to back up 2 questions that are what I see photography question. I was supposed to meet him for lunch here in Bangkok. I guess about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and it was because I was sick as well. I caught COVID as well, and so yeah, sorry I missed you, but I hope you enjoyed your stay here.
It's really going around. I mean, it's just amazing how many people I know like have had it recently. Like it's just nuts. Like I see on Facebook, like in America too, just like, oh, just had it. Luckily, fortunately now it seems, I was just doing some reading and they said, pregnant women are really at risk, but, elderly and, people with probably still the same thing with, if you're overweight or, existing health conditions. So still scary. It's amazing. The numbers are saying that we're getting in Thailand right now. They're reporting like 1,600 a day. They're saying it's somewhere between 30 and 60,000 a day. I think are getting it.
Dana, check your email. I sent you a link if you want to join in on the channel. I sent it to your email about 2 minutes ago. See if we get Dana in here and tell us about his COVID.
Yeah, but he's right. In Saigon is the best bread in Asia.
Oh, I know.
Again, you can thank the French for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we stayed in Cambodia, we stayed in Siem Reap or whatever it is, and there was a bakery, a bakery, right down the street from the hotel, and you could smell it when they cooked it in the morning. And you could walk down there, and as they were pulling it out of the ovens, they put it in the basket, and you could walk down and buy, a big bag for about $5 or $6 or whatever, big bag of bread. Oh man, I just pigged out on it. They really have some good bread down in Cambodia, but they get it from the French, just like Vietnam did.
Yeah. Yeah. Big influence.
Everybody steals from the French.
Yeah. I definitely do feel like I gained some weight on the trip, though. I mean, it was the style of food is a more filling, heavier food than what I'm used to eating in Thailand. I mean, I'm on a regular kind of diet here with the, chicken and vegetables or the rice or the fish soup or just the same type of things. And there it was a heartier type of food, I think,
Yeah.
especially with the breads,
So I was just watching a video, Patty Doyle's last video. For those of you who may not know, Patty Doyle is a very popular travel vlogger, and he's touring Vietnam right now. And he went from up north, and he just landed in Saigon on his last video. And I was watching it. I was a little surprised that he didn't do that much. It was a very quick video for a pretty big city, but where he was staying was a short walk from where I lived. Is on Lê Thong Thon. I can tell from, and this is the center of town basically. And that's one of the things that I was really pleased about that you could do in Asian cities like Saigon or Bangkok and a handful of others, is that, you can rent a place to live for a reasonable amount of money right in the center of town. Whereas in, Western cities like New York or London, you have to be a millionaire to touch places like that. And, so I was watching this video and it looked really kind of fun and interesting. People are out and glad to be out. And it looked like a very festive place. Now, again, it's by this big mall. There's a city hall. There's a mall in front of a big statue of Ho Chi Minh. My joke about Vietnam is after they won the war, they installed Marxism style economy, and about 3, 4, 5 years later, they were all starving to death. And the Vietnamese, being very practical folks, said, you know what? They put up a bunch of statues of Ho Chi Minh and invited in Starbucks, and completely switched over to a free market economy. So every time I see that there, it's right surrounded by all of these high-end retail places. This old Ho is rolling over in his grave.
Oh yeah, I bet.
But it looked really nice and fun. I got to go back there. I'm going to the States in December, and I decided I'm not going to travel to Vietnam before then. As a matter of fact, I'm staying put here. There's a bunch of things that I'm doing here in Bangkok between now and then. But when I get back from the States, that's high on my list of places to go because I really miss it. It was a difficult decision for me when the time came. I had to choose between living in Ho Chi Minh City or in Bangkok, and I wound up in Bangkok. But I do miss Ho Chi Minh City. Hello, Dana.
Hey guys.
Hey Dana, thanks for coming in, buddy.
Thanks for having me. Actually, usually we live stream tonight, but Jim and I are both like under the weather, so we decided not to. And I saw you were on, and then you sent me the link. I was like, I'll pop on.
Yeah, you got to stop in. But we're glad to see you're feeling better. That's for sure.
Yeah, I was the first couple of days were pretty rough. So now it's like my place is like a mess. I apologize. I haven't done anything for a week, and shit's just accumulating behind me.
My wife has it right now too. She's
oh man,
we were just talking about that. It's crazy. I was just showing you guys that coffee cup. So we went to way up in the mountains. What was it? What's that place called?
Bana Hill.
Bana Hill.
Bana Hill.
And you don't see. There's nothing commercial there except Starbucks. So I had to take a picture with the castles and everything behind it, holding up the Starbucks thing. That's what I was showing you guys there. Funny that you mentioned that because I thought about that and I took that picture, just exactly what you were talking about, Charlie.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Could I give us the address of some hotel in Chiang Mai, 3 or 4 stars? I can't give you the address, but I can tell you a few. Charlie, what was that hotel you stayed at?
Golden Bell, nice,
Yeah.
right near the Chiang Mai Gate. Look up Golden Bell Hotel on Google Maps. So it's a good place.
Yeah, there's another one called Top North that's right by Taipei Gate. Several in that area. The Ramming Lodge on LaCroix. They're all pretty nice.
I
all
didn't
pretty
love
nice
Ramming
hotels.
Lodge. They had a hot water issue.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was like my hotel in Vietnam. No, like for whatever reason, the hot water would come on for like maybe 3 minutes and then gone.
Yeah.
But
Well,
Golden Bell, I've been there 3 times now, and it's just that. It's a 3 or 4 star. It's very inexpensive, but they have a pool. It's reasonably clean. You know, you wouldn't want to give it the white glove test, but it's it's enough to. It was good enough for the money, and it's very convenient to the central part of town. So Golden Bell, that would be my.
Would it pass the black light test?
I don't even know what that is.
No, you don't want to know.
Bill gets it. Bill gets it.
Yeah,
Some of these
I know.
hotels
I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh, I could tell you a good story about that too, but I won't.
Oh God.
Put it in one of your videos.
Oh gosh.
For a
Let's
slow
just
day.
put it this way. Never. I'm not even going to go there. Never mind. Seems like Patty is getting worn out in Vietnam. It's more comfortable to be an expat in Vietnam. I don't know. I've not lived in Vietnam. Now Charlie could answer that question better than I
Charlie,
could.
you lived in both, right?
Yes, and while I miss Vietnam, if I had to make the choice, I would still choose Bangkok again, just for that reason. It's a more comfortable place to live. Bangkok is not a third world city. It's a first world city. You have all the amenities here that you can get in any Western city anywhere. And they have a mass transit system. And one of the big things, and this might sound a little bit silly, but when I was there for a while, Vietnam is about 80%, Ho Chi Minh City is about 80-90% motorbikes, and they're everywhere. Now, it's funny, when Patty did that video, they weren't up on the sidewalk, and he was saying, oh, it's so nice to walk on the sidewalk. Wait till rush hour. They'll be up on the sidewalk. Trust me. As a matter of fact, when it gets really jammed, there's no place to walk, and it's dangerous. And here's the big thing. They're horn beepers. They're beep, 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 beep. And it's not like angry, road rage horn blowing, but they, like it means, hey, I'm right behind you. Here, I'm over here. And they have this beep, 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 beep.
Passing.
And it's 24 hours a day. I lived on a little back alley. And I thought, oh, this would be nice and quiet here. It wasn't. They came down the back alley, got lost, turned around right in front of my house. And there's motorbikes freaking everywhere. And they have the worst air pollution of any city I've ever been in. Not now because it's rainy season, but as soon as the rain stops, Ho Chi Minh City fills up with smoke. And it was really, kind of grim during the dry season. So Bangkok.
Hey guys, I'll be right back. I have to run something up to Jib.
And so Bangkok's better in that regard. It's air pollution here, but it's a little less. And the motorcycle thing, there's motorcycles here, but they're not as obnoxious as they were there. And they don't blow horns here. They're not horn blowers.
I know. Did you notice that?
Worse than the motorcycle horn blowers is when it's a semi or a bus that you're next to, and they lay on the horn. I was like, no. And what they do is, I think they're letting anybody that they pass, like, no, I'm passing you. Beep, 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 beep. I mean, we're sitting out at the coffee shop on the main street, just looking at some of these people are just beeping, like, what are you beeping at? And that was something quite annoying. Let's see, but I'm sure it'll be mentioned in a video at some point.
Yeah, it's amazing how they drive there. It's so much different from here. And walking across the street, just totally bizarre.
But one thing I will say is I noticed way more compliance to the helmet law there. I even saw some kids on some bikes with their parents wearing like a bicycle helmet. And so definitely way more percentage of people wearing helmets. And as far as people like not driving against traffic the wrong way and following the traffic laws, they must have more of a proactive enforcement measures there, because I saw a lot more compliance to the law. I didn't see just the blatant things that I see every day here, but that takes away a little bit of the charm of it. I mean, we are in Southeast Asia, so you want to see people going against traffic and everything, right?
When we were in Saigon, I had read up about the police and stuff before I went, and we didn't really see any police. And there was some traffic guys, and what they would do, there'd be 2 of them on a motorcycle, And the guy in the back, they'd pull up to an intersection, and the guy in the back would stand up on the back pegs and put his hands up to stop traffic. And that's the only time we really saw them. And sometimes they'd be pulling cars over and checking licenses and stuff. It's just these guys, and I think they were in yellow suits, if I'm not mistaken. But they have a bunch of other guys that have pink uniforms, they jumpsuits, and they ride about 4 or 5 of them in a car. And I was sitting there one day, and I was watching, and there was some guy on the sidewalk. I don't know what he was doing. I was looking out the window of the hotel. Next thing you know, 3 cars pull up, and these guys in pink suits, pink jumpsuits jump out. They've all got guns strapped on. They had that guy loaded in the car, and they were gone in less than 2 minutes. And just boom, they landed, and boom, they were gone. And that was the only time we ever saw them the whole time we were there. But it was just freaky. I mean, I was just sitting there watching the guys walking down the street. Next thing you know, 3 cars slide up, and they get out of all 4 doors, and next thing you know, he's going face in the one of the cars, and off they went. And that's the only time I ever saw him the whole time I was there. But,
you saw the gang squad.
That's probably what it was. Yeah. I don't know, but boy, they were in there quick, and it was all, they're all unmarked cars. They're just old beat up Toyotas. And
there are a lot of uniformed people in Ho Chi Minh City, and one of them was I don't know. I lived down a little labyrinth of alleyways, and anybody that knows Ho Chi Minh City, I was right near where that great big Haagen-Dazs was on Le Ton Ton Street. I was right across from that. I don't know if it's still there, but that was kind of a landmark. And as you go down my alley, it was a narrow alleyway, and it was very charming, actually. I liked living there. And the way that I found it is the woman I was dating at the time asked what I thought was a security guard. He was this guy in a brown uniform that was at the entrance to the alleyway, and he sat in a little booth. And security guard didn't make me feel secure. He looked a little drunk most of the time. He didn't do much. He didn't stop anybody. He just sat in a stupid booth all the time. But he knew what was going on in the alleyway, and he got me the apartment. And I paid him a lot more money than he would have made. I mean, I'm from New York, where you have to pay a month's rent if an agent finds you an apartment. So I gave this guy, I think, the equivalent of about $100, and he just freaking loved me. I was his best friend there, right? And it was a good thing to do. And I later found out, because I had a small yoga studio in the 4-story building that I rented here, same thing that I did here. And one day I see him in my front, looking through the front gate, and I needed my girlfriend to come out and translate. And what it was, he was just wondering why there was a crowd of people there. And she told him, "Oh, here doing yoga." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And off he went. And I discovered, you'll see these guys around Ho Chi Minh City in the downtown area. They got tan brown uniforms, not armed or anything. They don't really do much. And they are spotters for the party. That's exactly what their function is. They're looking for gatherings. You got to remember that the seat of the revolution, the thing that we call the Vietnam War, they call it the American War, but it was a civil war that really germinated in Saigon, and that's where it all started. So the one party system, we call them communists. They're not anymore. They're capitalists, but they're still a one party system, and they're very sensitive to anything that looks like a political gathering. And that was the purpose for this guy. It was his job to see if there were gatherings of any kind going on in those alleyways. And if there were, he had to go figure out what it was. And yoga, no problem. Yoga's no problem. But if it was, us sitting around talking about political shit, we probably got to visit with somebody.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So basically, if you're going to have a meeting for political reasons, like, what do they call them here? The red shirts or whatever? I can't remember, but yellow shirts, red shirts, something like that. Just say, if your question, just say we're doing yoga. That's what you do now. Okay.
It says, do you feel safe as an American expat in Vietnam? Also seems to be a lot of tourist traps there. When I was there, I felt perfectly safe. I didn't have any issues. I walked around at night and didn't have any problem. Now, as far as tourist traps are concerned, I didn't run into any of them, but I've read, just like everybody else, is they're going to be just about everywhere you go. What about you? Did you feel safe there, Charlie, when you lived there?
The funny part of it is that I'm presuming a little bit, reading a little bit into the question, but I, grew up in the 60s. I was in the Army for 6 years. I didn't go to Vietnam War, but I grew up during the time that the Vietnam War was happening. So my first trip into Vietnam, I remember distinctly coming in and seeing the very distinct orange rooftops that you see as you fly into Tan Son Nhut Airport. And the phrase Tan Son Nhut was a Vietnamese phrase that I used to hear on TV every night when they were reporting about the war. And it kind of triggered me. I'm like, am I going to the wrong place here? Because I had this mindset of, we were at war with these people. Is this a good idea to be visiting them? Within 48 hours, I found out that way of thinking was completely wrong for a bunch of reasons. Number one, 70% of the population was under 40. They weren't even alive during the war. And now they are very ambitious capitalists, and they hear you're American. They want to talk about money. They want to talk about the stock market. They want to talk about business. And I felt very welcome there. Quite the opposite of what I thought might have been going on. I felt like a very welcome individual there in Saigon. It was my landlady, who owned four houses on the alleyway where I lived, was a woman about my age. And while I was, I have an old picture, I was paying her in cash, and it's like millions and millions of Vietnam dong. I'm going over the table for 1 month security, 1 month first, and it's 3 months rent going over the table there, and it was all in cash. And it was kind of, we had to count it like 6 times to get it right. There were 3 people counting it. It's just a strange place. But during the time I was talking with her, I asked her about, her memory of the war, because she had owned those houses for a long time. And what her response was to me, she just kind of looked at me and said, "Stop living in the past." That's good advice. That's not a bad answer. And so that was my experience, that there was very little crime, that I knew of. You could go find it if you want to. It's a big city, and there are people with drugs and problems and things like that, like in any big city. But for the most part, it's a very, very safe city. And I felt more than welcome. I felt like they were interested
I did too.
there.
Yeah, I felt the same. When I talked to different merchants, well, the first thing is, I was in Da Nang, but I had heard from people that you're going to deal with a lot more of a language barrier in Vietnam than you do in Thailand. Well, everybody I talked to at any store, spoke some degree of English. Like, it wasn't an issue at all. I went to a camera store and they spoke English in there. The first coffee shop we went to, we looked online to find a good one. And oh my God, this lady was the friendliest, nicest lady. And she, heard I was from America, and she brought us extra snacks and stuff. Like, just very, very nice people generally.
Yeah, I didn't have any language barrier when I was over there really either. Like, in Ho Chi Minh, everyone really spoke English at most of the major shops I went to. And where no one knew any English and I obviously didn't know any Vietnamese, I just pointed at stuff.
Yeah.
Like, use my phone for like auto translate, which worked really horribly in Vietnamese apparently. And or just point it. You get by.
Yeah.
What's funny is
I found that
the Vietnamese
good at Google Translate.
Really?
Yeah, they're much better than the Thais. Thais, I find, don't use it a lot. It's like I use it with my girlfriend when we're having a serious conversation, because neither one of us speaks each other's language that well. But I found the trick with Google is that you say what you want to say, no adjectives, no, just quick to the point. Where is the bus? Something very, straightforward. It'll translate it into Vietnamese. We're talking about that. Then copy the Vietnamese and then retranslate it back to English to see what Google thinks it is. And if I got it right, you're good. If not, do it again. Rephrase it and do it again. And I found I communicated really well there. They were good. They were good at it.
Huh. Maybe I'm a bit too flowery with my language, because it kept giving me like really messed up translations.
Yeah, no adjective.
That's funny.
It's like the Facebook trying to translate Thai.
Yeah,
that's kind of funny.
It's you're liable to end up with anything from Facebook.
I'll tell you what, though, YouTube does. YouTube mobile will auto translate Thai comments now, and that does a pretty good job. I get a fair amount of Thai comments, and I'll just pop into mobile, and you can just click to translate, and it will or tap to translate, and it does a really good job.
I haven't tried that yet. Says my wife and me followed two old ladies over the road in Ho Chi Minh City to get over the road. Old lady turned to me and said, "Thank you." I said, "I know exactly what you're saying. We did the same thing. Try to get across the street. You get next to a Vietnamese person, and when they step, you step, and you
I
make
got
sure
hit
you
by a
don't
bike
miss
when I
a
was
step.
there.
Did you really?
It was low speed, and the bike, I didn't even move. The bike fell over.
I was going to say, how much
You
damage
talking,
did the bike?
you talking motorbike or bicycle bike?
Motorbike. And it was low speed. I mean, like 5-6 kilometers an hour max. You know, and
I
he
almost
hit
got
me.
by one.
I was like, and he fell over. I helped him get his bike up, and he was like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" I was like, "Don't worry about it, I'm fine." But one of my employees who I was with, she maybe weighs like 40 kilos. If she had got hit, I mean, it probably would have been not a great day for her.
Hmm. It's amazing that a lot more people aren't run over there than what there are. I mean, to me it was so unnatural to just walk out in traffic and not look left and right. But that's the only way you can do it. Just keep walking and don't stop a step because you'll get hit.
I don't buy that. I don't believe in that at all. Just from what little experience I had in Da Nang, I think that's a fallacy. I think you got lucky, and thank someone up there for looking down at you.
I tell you, I was all confused when we first got there because they drive the same side of the road as the U.S. versus I'm used to here where we drive on the left side, and I haven't driven on the right side of the road in over a decade, and so it's funny because when I first moved to Thailand 10-ish years ago, I remember getting hit by a motorcycle because I looked the wrong way to cross the road, like just on instinct, like okay, boom, nope. I fucked up, and it didn't work out. And again, luckily it was a low speed impact, but the same thing almost happened to me there. It was the two team members who I was with. I looked the wrong way to cross the street, and the guy who I was with, Bank, he grabs. He's like, no. He's like, they drive like America over here. Look the other way. I was like, oh yeah, muscle memory.
Take some
I
good
had
use.
somebody say something to me once that was really helpful in negotiating, the traffic and crossing streets and stuff there. And I can't tell you why this was helpful, but it was. The guy says to me, he goes, "There's a Tai Chi-ness to it." And for some reason or other, that mindset helped me. It's kind of a dance that you have to weave your way through.
I can see that because the way the bikes move is very fluid. Like the motorbikes move through traffic and around things. I watched it. We were at a coffee shop and coming back from our office over in Ho Chi Minh, and there was at the intersection when they all started up again, there was someone there, and all the bikes just sort of like flowed around them, kind of like water. And as they kept moving through the intersection, the movement of the bikes around them just sort of shifted. It was kind of like fluidy, Tai Chi like Tai Chi in the most like over the top Shaw Brothers 1970s kung fu movie type of way.
I think the way that you really have to appreciate that is you have to be above it. If you're in a hotel room and you're looking down at the intersection, that's when you get a real feel for the way it is over there. We were right at a main intersection, and traffic amused me. Rush hour traffic. I'd sit out by the window and watch them. Figuring out which one's going to get hit, which one's not. It was just amazing. But I don't know. I don't know how they don't have a bunch of accidents up there.
It's crazy. I was at a corner, and I came into a corner that was five different streets coming into one intersection with no light. And so I stood there for a while. Then I pulled my camera out and I did a time lapse of just nobody hitting each other. It is pretty amazing. I couldn't do it. There's no way I could drive.
Yeah. Thanks for the stories. I'm going to Hanoi in a few months. I'm used to the hospitality in Thailand. Seems like a lot of YouTubers try to avoid comparing Vietnam and Thailand. If you're going to Hanoi, and we went to Hanoi about 2 years ago, and we stayed in the French Quarter, and I really enjoyed it. It was nice. There were a lot of people there, and everybody was really friendly. The food was excellent, and in that area you get to see a lot of what you don't normally see. I think I've got pictures of them. They're butchering a cow right in the middle of the street. and just it's really you'll enjoy your trip there. And the funny thing about Vietnam, and I noticed it in Da Nang too, they wash their dishes in the street. They bring their
Malaysia, they
dishes
do
out to the
that
side
too.
of the street, and they'll do all their washing right there. Wash it down the drain, and off they go. But that's just how
Hopefully,
they
they bring
do
the
it.
water out there too. They're not just using a puddle that's built up on the side of the road.
Yeah, but I
But
thought that was amazing.
hospitality wise, I would say like I've never been to Hanoi, so this my experience is solely with Ho Chi Minh. I did not find like the level of hospitality to be equivalent to that of Thailand. Now, it's not a ding on Ho Chi Minh or Vietnam. It wasn't that it was poor. I just feel like the overall hospitality I received in Thailand, that I do receive in Thailand, even living here, is at a much higher level, like all around.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, not by any means bad. It's not a knock on Ho Chi Minh. It's just a comparison.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this, because since you've all been there and two of you guys have lived there, Phi, being a Thai person, she felt that some of the people were a little rude or uncouth, like burping next to her or just not respecting other people's personal things like that. But I'm like, for all you know, that could be a tourist from some country to the north of China or something. I mean,
you mean China, north of Vietnam?
To the north of Vietnam, to the north of Vietnam, China, or something. I don't know. Have you guys experienced that at all? Where just like we were sitting at this one table and just like they crowded our table and sat down, but they could have been other tourists, not even Vietnamese. I don't know. But she had that feeling like Thai people are so polite and with the ka and crowd, just trying to go out of their way to be polite and more formal. And she felt that it just was that she didn't feel that there.
Yeah, I think us living here in Thailand, I think we're blessed by living amongst very gracious people and very people that are very polite. They're very self-conscious about how they intrude on other people. I think we're blessed that way. I can't compare it to any place I've ever lived.
Yeah,
as far as people being polite and kind and stuff like that. Now, I didn't notice anything negative in Hanoi.
Ho Chi Minh either. Like but like people don't generally tend to crowd me. Like I don't think I put off that welcoming vibe.
No.
So like that doesn't happen to me anywhere. But like I didn't really like burping and stuff like that. That's cultural. I mean, that could be different anywhere. Like, I've been places where people, I've been places in America where people feel very comfortable to just burp out in public. I mean, cultural things shift from place to place.
I didn't notice it at all. It was all her telling me, did you hear that? Did you see that? Did you see what that person did? And I'm like, I've never heard anything like that here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of the big differences between the two cultures that I've seen, having lived in both countries, is just kind of what you're alluding to here. Is there's an intensity in the culture in Vietnam and in the Vietnamese culture that doesn't exist here in Thailand. Thailand tends to be more polite and how do I say it? Kind of
formal.
My pen rai, sabai sabai.
You say that again.
A little my pen rai, sabai sabai.
My pen rai. That's what I was trying to phrase it. My pen rai, which I think translates to whatever.
It's okay.
So that kind of exists here in Thailand as a way of being. My girlfriend's sister has an infant that's here very often, and it's being instilled into her, this baby that can't even talk yet, to be polite.
Why? To why, right? The baby can why before it can talk.
Yeah, absolutely. And whereas in Vietnam, if the Vietnamese people listening, they're probably not going to want to hear what I'm about to say, but they are a lot more like the Chinese than they like to admit, because they tend to not get along. They have a lot of the cultural quirks that I've seen in China and Singapore and places like that. And one of them is spitting and that kind of thing. It's okay to do that there.
Now, I'm sure you guys have all experienced Chinese tourists in Bangkok, right?
Never.
Never? Oh, no, not you don't live here, Bill.
No,
But like Charlie, you have, right?
I'm sorry?
You have for sure in Bangkok experience like Chinese tourists.
I've seen them in Pattaya, where they move as an
Pattaya, a lot.
organism off the
And
bus.
they get the bus pulls up and like you're like, how do this many people fit on the bus type of thing? And they're like flooding off. And obviously, I remember one time I was in Samyang, Midtown when it first opened, and there was a Chinese couple with their baby, and their baby shit on the floor, and they just walked away, and like just squatted shit, and they walked away. Now I've been to China a few times. I know you have, Charlie, right? You've been to China a bit.
I've not been to China, no.
I thought you had. But so I've been a few times to a few different cities. I've never experienced people in China like I have Chinese tourists in Thailand. Anywhere, like I've been.
That's interesting.
Yeah, like I've been in major cities. Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Shanghai, Beijing, Kunming, like all over. Like not all over, but a fair amount of places, a good sample size. And people are completely different. I mean, there's still like they spit on the sidewalk and stuff like that, but whatever. Like I said, cultural things are, little differences that make life interesting. But like never like the loudness, like the hoarding, like the pushing that you experience here is really like much, much different.
That's kind of interesting because it seems like we were in Pattaya back I don't know, it's probably 2 or 3 years ago, and we checked into the hotel, and the lady says, "I'm going to put you on a high floor," because we had asked for a low floor, and my wife asked her why, and she says because the floors below you are all Chinese. I want to get you above them. And she said, "Come down for breakfast." Breakfast started at 8 o'clock. She said, "You come down at 7:45," and we did, and you could tell. Just at 8 o'clock, whoosh, and it was just like somebody had just taken over the place, but we have that up here too, Dana, up in Chiang Mai. I mean, we don't have it now, but we did, and it was just I don't know. It's not like the Chinese people that we remember in the States. I mean, they were really nice people.
Not like Chinese people in China either. It's crazy.
Yeah,
at least in my experiences, they're completely different.
That's really.
I think maybe people that you might deal with, I don't know, in business or whatever, these are folks that may be traveling solo or whatever. But when you get these large groups, they're getting some sort of package deal where it may not be, if you're dealing with people in business or, a certain percentage of the population, when you're dealing with the people on the bus here, like you said, when they're all that crowded, it's just a different level in society,
Yeah.
It does feel like they sometimes open the door to the bus and it's like, unleash the hounds.
Maybe a matter of survival for them on the tour. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you guys have experience about Cambodia? I've been to Cambodia once, and I really enjoyed it.
I was there once about 20 years ago.
Yeah, I was there probably about 5 years ago. Charlie, have you been to Cambodia?
No, I have not.
Yeah.
It's on my list.
Yeah.
I never recommend. I haven't been back in 20 years. I mean, I guess that speaks to. I had a great time, but I wouldn't return.
I'm going to go to what is it, Angkor Wat? I'm going to go in December. My kid's coming in town here.
Worth seeing,
2 days to head over there and look at it.
I think like my first 72 hours in Cambodia, I was like, I got food poisoning. I got drugged by 2 prostitutes. I was stuck in the middle of a gunfight where someone was blasting an AK-47 at a building.
Oh my God.
And then I was on a motorcycle taxi that crashed, and that was like the first 3 days.
You stay here. Don't go back.
Yeah, I'd have been done. I'd have been done after the first day.
What city were you in?
That was the first 3 or 45.
What city were you in?
Phnom Penh.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny, but my the city that I lived in Tennessee was sister cities with Phnom Penh. And they had a group come over from Phnom Penh once, and they toured our city and stuff. And that was long before I ever got here. But you compare the two places, and they're just totally different. I don't know how they figured that to be a sister city.
I like, what part of Tennessee were you living in? Damn.
I've been in the Philippines, Thailand, Korea, Hong. Always watch the crossings, the street, and the bridges. Best Vietnam dishes. But yeah, you're right. Let's see what the next one is.
Manila is interesting, man. They have some, like, I always thought Bangkok traffic was bad when I first moved here, and then like the really the worst three are probably Yangon is number one for sure. The traffic in Yangon is insane, and then would be like Manila, then Jakarta, like all magnitudes worse than Bangkok.
Mm.
I had lunch and I was staying in Makati two times ago when I was in Manila for work. And we're eating lunch at this restaurant in Makati on the side of the road, and the traffic in front of us didn't move in the 45 minutes that we ate lunch. Like the same car was just like hanging out.
My first trip to Asia was to Manila, the northern Quezon City. I was going to Quezon City, and I was going there on the invitation of a man who owned a yoga studio there. Asked me to just come and teach as a guest, and I knew a woman that worked for him, was an old girlfriend. So yeah, why not? So my first trip was to Quezon City, and I had planned to stay, I think, 7 to 10 days, something like that. After 3 days, I was on the phone with United Airlines trying to get a ticket out. I couldn't get any help from the people based in Asia. So I called New York, and it was Continental Airlines before they merged with United. That's a long time ago. And I was on the phone with the woman. She goes, "Oh, I see the problem here." She goes, "I wanted to go back to Hawaii. My brother was living in Hawaii." She goes, "I can get you from Manila to Guam, but I don't have a flight from Guam to Hawaii." She said, "But I could put you on the Island Hopper." I was like, "The Island Hopper? What's that?" She goes, "Well, it's a plane once a week. It goes from Guam and it stops at 7 different islands between Guam and Honolulu. Hence the Island Hopper, places like Chuuk and Majuro and the Marshall Islands and other." And I was like, "All right, put me on." And on the other end of the voice, on the other end of the phone, I hear a voice, and she goes, "You really want to get out of Manila, don't you?" I was like, "Yes, I do." And it turned out to be one of the most fun flights I ever took, because it was all local people that lived in these islands going back or getting on and that kind of thing. And they were wearing local costumes, had tuberose in their hair, and the plane smelled like tuberose. I mean, it was like, and I couldn't leave the airport when they stopped. And sometimes they would stop for maybe 40 minutes and get off the plane and look around. And it's like, man, it'd be great to go and stop at a bunch of these islands. It turned out to be a fun flight, but that's my get out of Manila story.
I saw Chill Will had a comment about it. He's Chinese from Hong Kong. I have a funny story. I was in Bangkok. I was flying out of Dunmyung to go when I did the show in KL. I would fly into Malaysia for a week and then go on location for like a week after. And so I lived near Dunmyung. I'd fly out of Dunmyung all the time on AirAsia. And if you've ever been through immigration at Dunmyung, you queue up in this sort of like twisty pattern. And when you get to the end of the queue, they break you off into whatever the shortest immigration queue is. So it's about halfway full, and I'm like maybe like 20% of the way in. And all of a sudden, this flood of Chinese tourists come in to the immigration area, and they just start going under the ropes, jumping over them, trying to cut in front of people. Mm-hmm. And I'm in line, and this big dude, Chinese dude, about my size, maybe like 10 years younger than me, tries to like cut right in front of me and get like under the rope to get into the next row. So I just grabbed him by the back of his shirt and pulled him back and sort of like finger wagged him like, no. And he started to like yell in Chinese, and I just ignored him and I kept moving past him. And he tried to get in front of me again, and he poked me in the chest and started to yell in Chinese. So I slapped him in the face, just like open hand, just like boom, big billowing slap with my my meat paw hair. And he started to cry like a baby. And I essentially said something along the lines of, "Shut the fuck up and get to the back of the queue." And he just starts crying, and he's garbling some Chinese. The girl in front of me, there's two girls, maybe like in their late 20s, early 30s, turn around, and she says something to him, I'm assuming in Mandarin, and he looks at her, and then she says something else like really harsh, and he just shuts up. He's like stops, he's like sniffling and tears running down his face, and he just walks under the rows to the back of the line. And she turns around. She's like, I have to really apologize. She's like, I'm a Hong Kong Chinese, and those are mainlanders, and no one likes them. So I told him if he didn't shut up and get away from you, you were going to kill him and then find the rest of his family.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. You know, shoo. It's
Wow.
it's
yeah,
amazing. You know, I just
I actually
don't
one
know.
time I saw an old lady and an old man get into a fist fight at Dam Myung as well, Chinese couple. I don't know if they were a couple, but they were both like this flight going to China, and they announced the boarding and they all rushed the thing. It was on the one causeway at Dam Myung International. I think it's like the gates in their 20s. And I hear them yelling, and I'm with a friend, and we look over, and this old lady who she had to be 65, 70, and like just like tiny, and she just starts punching this old guy in the face while they're in line together. And the flight attendant, like most flight attendants in Thailand, she's tall, slender, attractive. She literally reaches into the crowd and pulls them apart. And like yelling in like Chinese, like you could tell she had Chinese training and she knew like 10 words, and this was one of them. She's like saying this one word over and over, and like just pushing them apart from each other. And the old lady's just still swinging, and the guy is like, "Oh."
Sounds like some of the brawls we used to see. That's amazing. I don't know. I can't put any rationalization to it. But people don't. The people in the stateside don't really understand what we're talking about because they don't act like that over there, from what I've seen.
Yeah, no.
Here's the thing with China. My perspective on China came from living in Singapore for 4 years. And Singapore, for those of you who may not know, is about the size of Queens in New York. And it has a population of about 5 million people. It's a very small place, but it's a very prosperous and powerful city because of its prosperity. And 75% of the Singaporean citizens are Han Chinese, ethnic Han Chinese, but they've been living in Singapore, for generations now. And they do not consider themselves the same as mainland Chinese. What do they call PRA? People's Republic. Yeah, PRA. They call it. They think they refer People's Republic.
PRC.
PRC. That's it. PRCs they call it. They had an acronym for them, and because there were a lot of them. A lot of PRCs in Singapore as laborers. They would import them in for laborers. There's tons of construction going on. This is from 2010 to 2014 that I lived there. And I lived in Galang, which is the area where most of the immigrants lived. And I liked it. The food was freaking fabulous there. I mean, you could really get, whatever kind of international food you wanted to. And it was an interesting neighborhood. It was away from the more sterile downtown parts of Singapore. And I kind of liked it there. And I got to know a lot of the PRCs, at least the ones that I could communicate with. And they were just, rough and tumble, blue collar working guys, like anything else. And they kind of clashed. They didn't play nice with the Singaporeans. The Singaporeans kind of turned their nose up at them. Which used to make me laugh because ethnically they're the same. I mean, they're Han Chinese. That's their, their lineage. If you want to get into
culturally completely different, though, right?
Totally. It's like the Singaporeans. It's a remarkable little country. I learned a lot about it in the few years that I was there. But I mean, I'm older than the Republic of Singapore. I mean, it's a fairly new place, but huge success. But it was within that context that I began to learn that the different expressions of cultural expressions coming out of this gigantic country that we call China. I read a biography of Mao Zedong. As a matter of fact, I read two of them. I read the second one because there was a Chinese author and I wanted to get his perspective on it as well. And when Mao was trying to unify China, he had difficulties. He would, have success on one side of the mountain. He'd go up over the mountain with his ragtag bunch of his ragtag army and get to the other side, and they would speak a different dialect that nobody understood. So I took that away from the biography, and it was in both books, so I guess it has some facts to it, that there is such a cultural diversity within the borders of China as we know it, that this kind of stuff, the Singaporean versus PRC thing that I witnessed probably goes on times 100 throughout that entire country. We just don't hear about it because they don't let people know what's going on there. But it's a hugely diverse culture, and we see them all the same because they kind of look alike to us, but they're not. They're very, very different. They don't always play nice together either.
One of the things interesting about China, I pulled the map up so I can explain this a little bit. I was reading about this not that long ago, but if you drew a line, if you can picture what China looks like with Beijing up in the north, and you drew a line with just a slight western tilt to it down, everything to the right of that line is like 95% of the population of China. And it's like something like 10% or less of the landmass of the country. And then most of their resources are actually located to the left of that as well. So they've got these incredible infrastructure projects to move resources all around the country. But yeah, if you look at it like on a map, like everything west of, like if you drew that line from Beijing down to like Yunnan, say, to Kunming, Beijing to Kunming, that's 95% of their population and only like 5% of their resources or something. And all that other landmass out to Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan are all just like wasteland and just like sort of nomadic towns.
Kind of like Nevada.
Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Have all
Says, have any of you gentlemen had a bad experience with typhoons? I haven't.
Yes.
Have you guys been through any typhoons? I haven't.
No.
Not really.
Not since I've been here, no. We get some rain, and that's basically about it. And usually the wind blows real good before it starts raining, and that's about the brunt of it.
And we're all landlocked, right? So I
Yeah.
mean, unless you live in like Phuket, like you're probably not experiencing like too much ocean storm.
Actually, Japan and the Philippines, that seems to be the purpose of
Chill.
the planet, is to catch typhoons.
Yeah.
Jill will.
Yeah, the Philippines. There was an entrepreneur I met at an event in Singapore, like 2015, at the E27 conference, and he was talking about a plan to put. Let me see if I can. I want to phrase this properly because it was really interesting. But I believe it was tidally powered and cooled data centers on inland islands in the Philippines. So to use to take the islands in the middle, build these huge data centers on them, run fiber optics up there, and then use the tidal movements for power and cooling. Very obviously like moonshot, pie in the sky type of project, but like his theory was like, the inner islands are more protected from the typhoons, and it's a low rise building, so you build it to a certain standard. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. They've never built it, so I'm assuming it's not that good of an idea. It hasn't been vetted quite enough.
I watch a vlogger in Dumaguete. They can't seem to keep the lights on.
I noticed when I was there, the power
infrastructure
kept going out at numerous places that I was at, and it stormed most of the time. In fact, the video I put up tonight was us out there on a boat doing our excursion on the water, doing the snorkeling, all that stuff, and it just stormed half the trip.
Wow.
And there's no turning back. They just keep going.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
As a child stationed in Guam during Vietnam era, I have been through a couple of typhoons, kind of like Hurricane. Now, I've been through some hurricanes in Florida. I think I went through about 3 or 4 of them. But
so it was one season.
Yeah. God.
I got a dinner waiting for me at 9:00. So
okay. Well, we got about 1 minute left. But anyway,
All right, wrap up.
hey, Dana, appreciate you
Yeah.
coming in. Charlie,
Hey, thanks for the
Jamie,
link.
See everybody. Good
and
night.
All right, thanks.
those of you who don't know Dana, Dana has a channel called Ideal Studios. Charlie's got Charlie Travels with Charlie Hub and Greenie's Travels, and I'll put a link to their channel in the description of the video.
Charlie and I are working on something together at the moment as well. So
You got Charlie working?
Yeah. Roasting George Soros.
Charlie don't work. Charlie just has fun.
I think he's going to enjoy this.
Yeah.
I will.
Well, guys, I appreciate you coming in, and we'll see you later. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
And appreciate everybody that stopped
Bye-bye.
into the live stream. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
All right.
Bye.